You got to take off for that 4-hour stream yesterday. That was probably nice, huh? Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back from the weekend. Happy Monday. It's, what is it, the 9th of January? We're talking 6 NBA games today on the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by No House Advantage. I'm Dave Loughran. Joining me, it feels like it's been a while. I think it has. Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. Had a couple fill-ins for you over the past couple of weeks, but glad to be back, man. What's up?
Yeah, it has been a while because I was off. Yeah, I was off last Monday because I was supposed to be coming back from Georgia and didn't. But yeah, so it's been like probably 2 weeks.
I meant to ask you, what were you doing in Georgia?
One of my friends is down there for like 6 months for work. And so I went down. He's like an hour outside of Savannah and said he was going there for New Year's. So I just went down to hang out with him for New Year's and then decided not to leave.
Okay, nice. Strip clubs?
Only the first night.
Okay, we're making progress. Happy to have you guys with us as always. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to the channel. All that stuff helps us immensely. We got a lot to get into today, no doubt. I mean, hell, you have LeBron James getting ruled out. We're still waiting on this Memphis news, which is rather significant. A whole lot of things to get into today. I mean, at this point, Adam, do you have any lean, because they were both out yesterday, do you have any lean towards the Memphis news? Because that's like the biggest one that's hinging upon how we build lineups tonight.
Yeah, that one I really have no idea. When I was doing my projections before the show, I just skipped Memphis and figured maybe we'll get information by the end of the show and I'll be able to go back to it. But otherwise, I don't have any way, like I don't have any lean other than just I'll project the questionable guys in until they aren't.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got 6 games, so let's dive into it. Hit that thumb. Well, we're at 100 likes so far. Not bad. Not a terrible ratio. We crushed it yesterday on the NFL show. Thank you to all of you guys. You're the best. That was an amazing NFL season too for everyone that's hung out with us. We'll be here for playoffs, but wrapped it up yesterday, heading into the postseason. Should be a lot of fun. Lions. I was stoked about that. You had a pretty funny comment as well that I'm surprised didn't rile more people up about your Green Bay isn't even a city tweet.
Yeah, I know. I thought that would get more people upset, but
I looked at the comments going like this. Like I said, I had a couple drinks. I'm sitting in the basement. I'm like, let's see. And nobody said anything really.
There were a couple that informed me that there are fans outside of Green Bay. Like I was unaware, but.
And that not everybody's a farmer?
No, nobody actually commented on that.
You intentionally tweeted that though to get people riled. Like there's no other reason to tweet that.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah,
I was pretty disappointed it didn't get more people.
And then Lovie Smith just throwing the middle finger up.
That was great.
Is that one of the if I'm a Houston fan, I'm furious. Don't get me wrong. The guy goes for 2. They get it and they win and lose the first overall pick.
And it was great because like the reports had come out during the week that he was probably going to be fired afterwards. And so like I saw people being like, oh, you know, he got fired because he went for it. It's like, no, he knew he was
for sure
out the door and then just went for it.
It's kind of a GOAT move when you think about it.
It's awesome.
It really is.
And like he has ties to the Bears too, which made it even better.
Yeah. I said if they win a Super Bowl, they need to put up a statue, not of Fields or Eberflus, but of Lovie Smith.
Right.
Just right in the middle of Chicago, because that sets them up for a minute. And there were so many people trying to cope, tweeting at me. They're like, no, that for second pick is better. And I just, okay.
Yeah. No.
All right, pal. Sure. Let's talk some basketball here. New Orleans Pelicans at Washington. And all of our tools recently updated. We're in business there. If you hear us talking about ownership, it's all on the site. Ownership, the boom bust tool with the optimal lineup score, all of that stuff. You can follow along, or you can get 5 free days if you'd like. I'll get to that in a little bit. But Russell Westbrook earlier wasn't getting any. Now he's coming in at 50. So when we talk the Lakers, we'll get there. But first, let's get to this Pelicans and Washington game. So Pels 1.5-point dogs here. Of course, no Zion Williamson, still no Brandon Ingram, 228 total in this. I was thinking about this earlier when I was looking over the slate, and I was glad we could kick it off with this. I wanted to ask you, are you, and of course it's in context to the rest of the slate, but are you surprised McCollum's only at 15%? Because he's played, 7 games without both of these guys this year. 1.3 DraftKings points per minute, 31% usage rate, 31% assist or 39% assist rate. The numbers aren't mind blowing, but he's 8,500 in a game that should stay competitive with a relatively high total.
Yeah, maybe a little bit surprised, but at the same time, we do only have him with about a 10% chance of being optimal. And part of that is because of LeBron being out. Now you have Russell Westbrook looking fantastic at 7,700, so a cheaper price tag than McCollum. He's pulling a ton of ownership. You have ownership coming into other guards, whether they're cheap or not. But like you have Trey Jones playing without Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell. You might have Josh Richardson playing, taking up a guard spot. So I get it. Like Desmond Bane's playing and then might be playing without John Morant. That's another guard that's cheaper than McCollum. So I get why the ownership isn't higher, just given all of the other guard options.
What about well, let me start with this. Assuming that Larry Nance returns and he's probable, does that take anybody that may have been appealing to you since he's been out? Does that take anyone and bump them down a little bit?
Only Joval, really. You take a couple minutes off of him. Like I went to 26 on Joval, 22 on Nance. We know that there's been plenty of times this year where Nance has closed over him, but I think, expecting them to pretty much split the minutes makes sense. So it creates a situation where you can certainly still go to Joval. It's a pretty solid matchup going up against Washington, 113 implied total for the Pels, but he does lose a couple of minutes, and I think it does just make him look like a pretty average play as opposed to, if Nance weren't playing and you could go 28 to 30 minutes, he'd look really good. So as is, I think that 13% ownership makes sense on him, but it doesn't really affect much of anything else because when Nance is out, you're typically just getting Hernan Gomez as the backup center, and now he probably won't play. So it doesn't really have much of an impact on the wings or anything.
What about Najee, just given that he's getting a considerable amount of minutes right now, taking the advantage of the opportunity, but 21% right now on a 6-game slate. I don't think the price point is crazy whatsoever, but yeah, we've got him north of 20% right now against the Wizards.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of surprises me there is how big the gap is between him and then Herbert Jones and Trey Murphy.
Sure.
I think
Murphy's
Marshall
at 1.8%.
Right. Like I think Marshall is the best of the three. He's, north of a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy, while Jones and Murphy are down around 0.75 fantasy points per minute. But on average, you're going to get around the same playing time from those guys. They're all likely to play, around 32 minutes. Obviously, in any one game, you could get a couple more here or there. But Marshall projects the best. But I just think from a range of outcome standpoint, they're not that far apart. And, to be getting 4 times as much ownership for Marshall compared to Herb Jones, 20 times as much ownership or 10 times as much ownership as Trey Murphy. So like, I do agree Marshall's the best play of the 3, but I just don't think the gap is quite as big as that ownership suggests.
So then how would you order them in terms of priority? Of course, outside of McCollum here, but some of these, the lesser priced options in the same range, right? Herbert, Murphy, Najee Marshall. How would you prioritize them?
It kind of depends on your lineup. Like Najee Marshall is the first guy for me from Marshall, Jones, and Murphy. But I just think that if you have a lineup where you already have other popular plays, then mixing in a Herb Jones or Trey Murphy makes sense.
What about Alvarado?
I have trouble with that one just because the price tag has come up. He is coming off of a game where he played 32 minutes, but it's just really difficult to project those minutes. Herb Jones only played like 26 in that game. Alvarado is averaging around 22 minutes per game, kind of regardless of who is playing and who isn't. So I think expecting him in like the low to mid 20s makes sense. And at 4,500, it's just gonna be difficult to get there. That being said, if he does pick up more minutes for one reason or another, he is a very good point per minute guy, and it's not going to take a ton for him to end up being good. So I would say that, like the 1% ownership on him is maybe a little bit low, but he's also point guard only, and you do have a lot of other options there.
Mike K said, I live in Green Bay. Technically, it is a city, but the tallest building is Lambeau. It's not just farmers and some houses, houses even have electricity and running water. Yeah.
Yeah. After I tweeted it, I looked it up last night just because I didn't have it. I knew it was very, very small, but I didn't really know how it compared to other things. And like Baltimore is a small city. The population in Baltimore is greater than the entire Green Bay metropolitan area, like in Baltimore City. And then if you take like the metro area, it's like 10 times as big as Green Bay.
Yeah, I went to Lambeau 3 years ago for the Eagles-Packers game. You would love it. It's sick. Like it's not a city. It doesn't feel like it, at least. If you would take 20 steps out of the stadium, you're in a neighborhood. Like
right,
an
yeah,
actual,
I knew the stadium was just like in a neighborhood.
yeah, it's in a neighborhood. Beautiful area. The bars are awesome. The people were almost too nice. Felt like I was going to get shanked, but very, yeah, it's sick. If they play with the Commanders, you should go down there for a game. You would love it.
Yeah, I hate the cold though.
I went in September, man. It was
Yeah, that's
awesome.
not bad.
It was like 55 degrees on a Thursday night football game. It was sweet. Yeah. I'm not going in the winter though. Anyway, let's talk about Washington unless you have anything else for the Pels.
No, that's it for the Bills.
All right. Daniel Gafford, you got him at center, sub 5K today. I can understand why he's relatively popular in a spot like this. Of course, he's not like no one from Washington is garnering a ton of ownership, given that we only have a handful of games on this slate. But Gafford clearly the top owned option right now as far as the Wizards go.
Yeah, and I do think, I mentioned it this morning. I expect Gafford to start today, but that is news that we're going to need to wait on because he's been starting, but in the second half last game, they went to Jordan Goodwin, moved Porzingis back to the 5 and brought Gafford off the bench. I think that was just a result of them getting smacked by OKC and they were just switching things up. But, if Gafford does come off the bench today, then clearly you're going to project him for a few minutes less than if he's starting. But assuming that he starts, he does look like a good value at 4,700. He's averaged about 26 minutes per game in the games that he has started with Porzingis active and without Beal. He's not taken any sort of a hit in terms of fantasy production. So at 4,700, as long as he's starting, Gafford does look good here.
The rest of this team, even without Bradley Beal, just doesn't profile all that well in a spot like this. Porzingis isn't cheap. Kuzma, 8,400 coming in around 6%. And then Avdia, I mean, how do you proceed with a guy like Avdia night to night?
Yeah, so Porzingis, I think actually looks pretty good. I think his ownership's a little bit too low, and the Boom Bust tool agrees. 11% chance of being optimal for Porzingis, only 5% ownership. He looks good to me as well, and getting power forward eligibility on DraftKings now is really useful. Kuzma should play a lot of minutes. If you get there, fine, but Porzingis is actually the one I like a little bit more. As far as these other guys, though, so Washington's kind of tricky because I don't know exactly what their rotation is going to look like. In these games without Bradley Beal recently, you've been getting 8-man rotations with the exception of the last game against OKC, where they were playing horribly and just getting destroyed right out of the gate. Then they gave some minutes to Jordan Goodwin. They gave some minutes to Will Barton, likely just trying to find the spark off the bench. If you assume this is an 8-man rotation, that means you end up projecting guys like Denny Avdia and Rui Hachimura for close to 30 minutes. It means that you end up giving Corey Kispert a bunch of minutes as well. I think there's a good chance that somebody ends up playing as a ninth guy, whether that's Jordan Goodwin. Taj Gibson is not on the injury report, so you could see him come back and steal some minutes. It could be Will Barton. So I went ahead and just gave 12 minutes to Jordan Goodwin, which still leaves like 26 minutes for Avdia. It leaves like 26 minutes for Rui. At very low ownership, I still think there's some appeal there, just hoping that one of them plays well and runs into more minutes off the bench. Monte Morris and DeLon Wright should split 48 minutes at point guard, most likely 29-30 to Morris, 18 or 19 to DeLon Wright, who's only 3,300. So none of these guys stand out. None of them are getting a lot of ownership, and I don't think that they should. But I do think there's enough volatility in this rotation that at low ownership, they are appealing in tournaments just because if anybody from this group plays well, they're likely to play more minutes, especially if that's Avdia, Rui, Kispert, like these guys that play multiple positions, and you can kind of just work around them for that like final piece of the lineup.
Yeah, it's a great point. Now, I don't assume that you'll run into this issue all that much, just given their ownership, given their projection. Is this a spot, though, where you're playing for maybe one of these guys to pull additional minutes? Not sure who it's going to be, that you might be setting some groups to limit them from not getting some of these cheap guys not getting in the same lineup together?
Yeah, so I think groups-wise, I would go max one of Morris and Wright since they just haven't been playing alongside each other. That's not to say that they can't, but they haven't been, so I'm not expecting it to start now. If you wanted to go max one of Avdia, Rui, and Kispert, I think that would be fine. I'll probably go max two, but either one would work because, like you said, you're kind of just hoping that one of them gets hot. The reason that I would lean towards max two, though, is if Washington does just go back to that 8-man rotation that they've been running recently, then I don't necessarily just want it to be a max one. Like you could be perfectly fine having Avdia plus Kispert if suddenly Avdia is playing 30 and Kispert's playing 36 or, something like that. So I'll probably end up just going max two with these guys, but also probably won't get more than one in most lineups because they just don't project well enough.
All right. Chicago, Boston. Let's get it done. Chicago Bulls, 8.5-point dogs, 235.5-point total. We'll get to the absence of Marcus Smart in a minute and how we're going to approach that one. But first, let's kick it off with Chicago. Now, Alex Caruso, the only real questionable here, but he participated in shoot around. Little reason to believe that he's not going to play in this game. What do you? Okay, so now you have. We always talk about this, like the price. The pricing and just the way these guys project night to night is very similar, oftentimes with the big three. You've got Zach LaVine now $1,500 cheaper than DeMar. Vooch is in that middle range, but on DraftKings $8K, DeMar's $9K. LaVine is a 7,500 now. Of course, it's not a particularly great matchup in this spot, but does he stand out to you as a decent enough mid-range option today?
Yeah, I mean, the upside clearly is nice, and also having shooting guard, small forward eligibility is nice. LaVine's price tag just hasn't really moved. He's still 7,500, whereas you had Vooch go from 7,300 to 8K. You have DeRozan up at 9K. So I think LaVine's just the easiest to get to from a positional standpoint, and that's why you're getting the ownership. As far as like projection versus salary, I actually like Vooch the most of the three. The problem is just the opportunity cost at center. We've already talked about Gafford and Joval being perfectly good plays. You have a ton of other good center options on this slate. So I think that's why you're seeing such little ownership come into Vooch, but it does make me interested in going there. He's still likely to play 34 plus minutes. He's still a very, very good point per minute guy and can do a lot of damage at that salary and very little ownership. So I think that it's like, if you just didn't have positions, I think Vooch and LaVine would be very similarly owned. But the reason you're seeing so much more ownership come into LaVine than Vooch is simply that you can roster him in 5 spots instead of 2.
Yeah, I mean, just got a super chat. Struggling to comprehend or understand anything that it means.
Yeah, I read it and I was like, well, I'm glad I'm not the one that has to read this.
No, you're not. You're the one that has to answer it.
Yeah.
I'm going to read it out loud. From Nico Pico. Can you shout out my boy, my main man, my ride or die? Is that Chard?
You're the one reading it.
What's happening, Chard? Razman, or maybe it's Chard, Razman, Porzingis. Morrison, though, yeah. Not Max, though. All right, so what do you think? How would you answer that just from a strategy standpoint? It's not Max.
Yeah, it's not Max.
All right. Well, thanks. Listen, if you want to rephrase that in English and just send it, I'm happy to try and answer it. No, dude, I don't. Do you understand it at all?
No, I'm just watching Jordan.
Oh yeah. Jordan thinks everything I say is controversial when really it's not. Like, this is just what any normal human would say. All right, where else do you want to go? But hey, thanks, Nico, for the super. Listen, seriously, rephrase that. If you actually, I'm assuming it wasn't a question, but if it was, rephrase it.
I was expecting it to make sense when you read it out loud, like when they get you with just saying ridiculous names, but like
made less sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Right, I was expecting to get got on that one for sure. It never came. What else are you doing with Chicago?
Yeah, there's not a lot else. I mean, Patrick Williams has been playing a lot of minutes. I would assume was likely to play, 26, 28. They're both pretty cheap, but neither one looks overly appealing. I do want to keep an eye on the status of Javonte Green. If he is out, I think there's a chance you get a couple more minutes for Patrick Williams. You also would probably get Andre Drummond as the backup center, but I'm not as concerned about that part. But Williams has been playing a lot of minutes recently, averaging about 34.5 over his last 10. If Green is back, I do think that there's a chance he loses a couple of minutes here, but one way or the other, Patrick Williams, I would assume the last guy in, hope to get lucky type plays, fine, but certainly can't go there with any confidence.
Okay. On the other side, let's get into the weeds a little bit here. So Marcus Smart is sidelined. We saw him go down in the third quarter of last game. Malcolm Brogdon came in, played 17 minutes and a half. He was also playing really well. Like the entirety of that game, I think he had 23 actual points in that one. What do you think the starting lineup looks like today? Like, do you think they possibly keep rolling with him off the bench?
With who off the bench?
Who do you think starts in place of Smart?
Yeah, so I think my guess is Grant Williams. Last time he was out, though, was Peyton Pritchard.
Who was it?
Peyton Pritchard.
Okay. So are you on board with the additional Brogdon ownership today?
Yeah, because I think that at 5,300, he doesn't need that many more minutes to look good. He is likely to play 26 or 27, but certainly could play more. But over a fantasy point per minute guy as well in a good matchup, he looks excellent to me at 5,300, even assuming that he does come off the bench.
Okay, real quick. Who said that? Max Pierce said Porzingis is really throwing it off here. 100%. If there wasn't a name resembling a basketball player in that super chat that we didn't just talk about, I would have been like, this means nothing basketball related. But I saw that, Adam, and for a second was like, maybe there's something hidden in here that I don't know about.
Right. Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah, but if that wasn't in there, I would have just, done with it. Anyway, we'll move past that. Is there anybody else though in the backcourt just with Smart's absence that you want to talk about before we get into the big dogs?
So, I mean, keep an eye on the starting lineup. The last time that Pritchard started without Smart, he still only played like 17 or 18 minutes. He's 3,300. If he starts, it kind of just creates a like damned if you do, damned if you don't type situation because he is only 3,300. And if he played 24 minutes, he would look really good. If he plays 18, he's going to look pretty bad. I would project him for like 20 if he starts, and I'd have him at like, I think 16 coming off the bench. So I don't think it makes a huge difference, but it does make him look mildly better if he starts. Grant Williams, 3,500. Assuming he does start, I think that's a reasonable value option, likely to play upper 20s in minutes. Derek White potentially could benefit as well from Smart being out. Like when you think about the closing lineup, you expect Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to be there. You'll probably have Horford there. And then it's just like two of Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, Grant Williams. And so there is a path for White to be better. The problem is just like when you compare him to Malcolm Brogdon, White's nowhere near the same fantasy point per minute guy as Brogdon, and they're likely to play similar minutes. White probably plays a couple more on average, but not enough to project as well as Brogdon.
Okay. Smart averaging 12 potential assists this year as well, leads the team by a mile per game, I should say. Where do you think all of that gets redistributed?
I think you see more from Tatum and from Brown. I think you also, again, see increased playing time from Malcolm Brogdon, probably a couple extra minutes for Derek White as well. And they'll have the ball in their hands as well.
Yeah, I'm living in another world right now. Did you see the name on that super chat?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the same person that
he had to have just made that. Well, hold on. Is that no different? No, he could have changed everything.
No, I'm guessing it's the same person that was the picture on my wall and got stuck being that for 2 weeks. He's allowed to change again, I think.
You think that's him?
Probably.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about.
No, Adam thinks it's the guy that had to have like the Adam's picture on my wall name or something like that. Chard Razman Porzingis. Thanks for the shout out, Nico Pico. That's a solid soup. That is good, man. That is very, very good. Nice work. Thank you for adding to this show. And thank you for the super chat. What else? Anything else though with Boston, like you're mentioning, Tatum and Brown definitely soak up some of that playmaking responsibility here. We have Grant Williams at 12%. We have Tatum at 13, Robert Williams at 8. Last I looked, and I should update this because we got some news since the last time I did, was before the show, of course. I thought we had Robert Williams with one of the higher leverage scores on the slate.
Yeah, I think Robert Williams in tournaments is pretty interesting. We've seen him play 21, 22 minutes more often than not recently. And he's also been closing games and halves. In their last game, he closed both the first half and the second half. Both were alongside Al Horford, which is something that I've been kind of trying to pay attention to with Williams, because when he first came back, he was playing minutes alongside Horford, and it seemed like they were going to ramp him up relatively quickly. Then they went to where he was basically just playing without Horford on the floor, and so he was kind of just stuck in that like 18 to 20 minute range. Now, if he's going to frequently close alongside Horford, it becomes a lot easier for him to get, a consistent 21, 22 minutes, if not more. So I have him in for 21 right now. It wouldn't shock me if he played more than that. But even at 21 minutes, it puts him in a situation where at 4,400 and relatively low ownership, there is certainly a path to success for him and makes him look somewhat interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I was not one of the highest, but he's 2% positive leverage there. We have what, 10% optimal, 8% ownership, 12.6% boom score. Anybody else for Boston?
No.
All right. I mentioned you guys earlier too. 5 free days of NBA. We extended it from 3. It's 5. It's essentially us saying we want you to come check these tools out and get as much chance as you can to win some money. So you can really use them to your advantage, leverage them against the field. You're talking about everything that we have for NBA, the NBA lineup generator, the NBA lineup builder. If you're a hand builder, 3-max, single entry, whatever it may be, something for everybody. Ownership projections, the boom bust tool, the player projections, all of the projected stats, and you name it. Like if there's tools out there that you need to win an NBA, it's over at Stokastic. You got 5 days entirely free, no strings attached. If you hate it, we'll gladly refund your misery at the end of those 5 days, which would be exactly $0. The link's in the description. Jordan can throw it in the chat. Listen, it's so much better. Whenever I do this for football, I'm telling people, bookmark this link, come back to it on Thursday or Friday so you can get the full, full access to everything, because football isn't every day. With basketball, it's every day. So you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You have the entirety of the week to use our NBA tools for free just by using that link in the description and in chat. Check it out. If you like it, stick around. We'd love you to. That's why we do this. We want you guys to get access to this and win. And if you don't, that's all right. We'll still be here on YouTube for free every day of the week. So links down there in the description and in the chat. Let's get on to the next one. So we got 2 down. Now we're talking Milwaukee and the New York Knicks. Chris Middleton remains out. Bucks 1-point dogs, 221 total here. You have you of course have Nikola Jokic on this slate. You have no more LeBron James. He went from probable to questionable to out. How does Giannis at this price point, just exorbitant price point, look to you today against the New York Knicks on the road?
Like, it's Giannis, so obviously he looks good, but I think it's going to be pretty difficult to get to him because, for one, you just have a bunch of pretty good mid-range plays on this slate. And then for 2, you have Jokic going up against a LeBron and Anthony Davis-less Lakers team, should just, have his way with that team for as long as he's on the floor. So he projects better than Giannis, and he's a little bit less expensive. Giannis does have forward eligibility, so not quite as much opportunity cost as Jokic, but 8% ownership, certainly if you can get to Giannis, then great. He's certainly capable of being the highest scoring guy on the slate, but I think it's going to be pretty difficult to get there.
Okay.
Not exactly the most appealing game environment either.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think it's going to be just largely difficult to get to anything from Milwaukee today?
From Milwaukee in particular, yeah. Drew Holiday's 7,400 on DraftKings, which is somewhat interesting. I gave him 30 minutes. I don't feel very comfortable going more than that. If you wanted to go like 32, I think that would be reasonable. We saw him play 19 minutes in a blowout last game. We saw him play 19 minutes in his first game back from illness. I assume that he's going to get ramped up relatively quickly. Like, it wasn't an injury or anything that he was dealing with. So I do think there's a chance that he plays 30 plus minutes here, and his salary has come down. The problem is just that, I'm not just projecting him for 34 or 35 minutes, since we haven't seen anything close to that since he came back. And this is a pretty unappealing, slow game. So even giving him 30 minutes, he kind of just looks mediocre at 7,400. Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez, kind of just priced where they should be, if not a bit overpriced. I think you see them play a nice chunk of minutes alongside each other in this matchup, but it's just still difficult to get to them. I don't really have much of anything from Milwaukee.
Okay. So I get that it's an unappealing game, but on the other side, these Knicks starters are just playing massive minutes right now. And it's like quickly huge minutes. Of course, RJ Barrett doubtful for this one. Assumption is that unless he's already been ruled out and I just missed it, but he's been doubtful throughout the day. So with the expectation that he doesn't play, I mean, certainly he's been out long enough now where a lot of these price points have been priced up enough to reflect his absence. But still, Adam, these guys are playing massive minutes right now. Game has a 1-point spread. They're favored, slight favorites at home. You could be seeing another spot where Tibbs just runs them out for monster minutes again.
Yeah, and that's what I expect. I mean, that's what Tibbs does. You could have Obi Toppin back in this game. He fully practiced yesterday, but even if he's back, I expect that he's limited and most likely taking some combination of minutes from Hartenstein, Sims, Fournier, one of those guys, not really impacting anything in amongst the actual DFS options. So I'm expecting another 40 minutes, give or take, from Julius Randle. Jalen Brunson should play upper 30s as well. Those two look really good. 10-4 on Randle on DraftKings, 8-1 on Brunson. Obviously those salaries have come up a bit, like you said, but Randle still pulling 15% ownership, Brunson pulling about 14%. They both make sense. Quickly at 6,200 does take a hit in terms of point per minute production because of playing so many minutes alongside Randle and Brunson, but he still should play more than half his minutes without one of them on the floor. You're likely to get him just out there whenever Randle's not on the floor or whenever Brunson's not on the floor. So it's not quite as bad as if he were just playing all of his minutes alongside both of them. Under those conditions this year, he has like an 11% usage rate, but even, factoring in the reduced point per minute production, if he's just going to play 37 or 38 minutes at 6,200, he's going to look good. Mitchell Robinson's been playing bigger minutes. There's obviously plenty of foul risk here with Giannis just attacking the basket and living in the paint, but Robinson should play 50 or 30 plus minutes as long as he's not in massive foul trouble. He's pulling 14% ownership, which makes sense. And then there's just no ownership going anywhere else, which there probably shouldn't be. Quentin Grimes, the fifth starter, is likely to play 36 plus minutes as well, but he's 5,400 and just doesn't do a whole lot when he's on the floor. So Brunson, Randle, quickly Robinson, I think all look like really strong plays here. And then the rest of the team just falls off a cliff.
Yeah, I want to dive into the Robinson thing just a little bit more here because, and you mentioned it. If you weren't good, I was gonna bring it up. It's entirely possible, like you said, he goes 30 plus minutes, plays a ton, or he plays 18 minutes because he's constantly in foul trouble. But you would think it'd be nice to have a guy that's a quality rim protector and a good shot blocker out there against Giannis. It's just if that backfires and goes sideways and he's got 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game, then you could be in some trouble. Do you look in large field tournaments to any like Hartenstein in a spot like that in the event that Mitchell Robinson does find himself in early and serious foul trouble?
I probably won't really get there. I mean, I gave Hartenstein 16 minutes, gets him to like 14 fantasy points. But the thing is, I think it kind of is factored in because if you guarantee me that Mitchell Robinson doesn't get in foul trouble, I think he's playing more than 30 minutes. And I think Hartenstein's probably playing fewer than 16.
For sure.
So, kind of taking the average there makes sense to me. Like if he avoids foul trouble, Robinson's probably playing 32 plus. So it kind of just balances it out. And 30 minutes makes him look pretty good at 5,200.
Anything else for New York? And let me ask you this, if the answer is no to that. These guys are so close in ownership today, and many of them are pretty similar in salary. Are there any that stand out to you just far above the rest, or are we just playing the minutes game here?
I think it's just the minutes. Like Jalen Brunson would be the one that, relative to salary, I think looks the best. But even with him, you're talking about a slate where you have a pretty cheap Trey Jones, you have Russell Westbrook, you have plenty of other guard options, like we've already talked about. So it's kind of like CJ McCollum, where I think Brunson looks very good at $8,100, but you have McCollum, you have Westbrook, you have Jones, you have like all these other guards. And if you just decide to say, oh, well, I'm jamming in Jalen Brunson, that means you're giving up on some of those other plays that look very good as well. So that's why you see the kind of modest ownership there. Randle at 10-4. There's, on the one hand, it's just like, that's a lot to pay for Julius Randle. But on the other hand, the guy in competitive games is playing 40 plus minutes like every night, playing really, really well. So he actually does project reasonably well for that salary. We have him just shy of 50 fantasy points. I'm slightly higher, but same ballpark. So I think Randle and Brunson are the two that look the best, but also they're the two most expensive, and Brunson's got a lot of guards that look very good to compete with.
Man, a lot of love in chat right now. Not to us. I mean, just in, showing support and solidarity between everybody in there. People going through some rough stuff and chat rallying around. Gotta love to see it. Love that's a welcomed turn from what we usually see in chat.
Yeah, that hopefully it lasts.
Hopefully it does. Yeah, I'll give it a night. I also love to see people strongly requesting that everyone atone for their sins and hit that thumbs up button. You know the drill. Wash yourself clean of that filth. Bathe in the glory of hitting that thumbs up and feeling whole again. For real though, hit that thumbs up. Get us to 500 if you haven't done so yet. Otherwise, it helps us a ton. Wouldn't ask you otherwise. Let's Helms. Yeah, we are a family around here. I got you. I say it all the time. It's the Stokastic family, man. Stokastic family hits that thumbs up button too. And there's 2,100 of you in here, only 326 likes. So we can work on that ratio. If you got a single second and a working finger, I have faith that we can get this up to 500 before 5:45. How about that? In the next 9 minutes, I think it's not only doable, but likely. All right. And Tank,
good call by Chris G. Lindquist is on the next show, so the love will die out.
What'd you say?
Eric is on the next show, so the love will disappear.
Oh, you think it'll just become chaos again?
Most likely. That's what generally happens.
Well, that's all right. We got 24 minutes to keep the good vibes going here. All right. We good on this game? Keep it moving?
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the Spurs and the Memphis Grizzlies. So San Antonio here, if you're seeing a lot of ownership coming in on this team, maybe, hell, maybe you just took advantage of the 5 free days and you're playing around. You're like, oh, ownership projects. All right, boom, bust tool. Wow, a lot of San Antonio Spurs. Well, yeah, that would be the case. Keldon Johnson's out. Richardson downgraded to questionable, so that's worth paying attention to. But now that you're looking at this game, Adam, and you have both Keldon Johnson and, of course, Devin Vassell out, those are the 2 highest priced players on this team. It clearly opens things up, and it's reflected in ownership. Just tons of ownership across the board, despite being massive road dogs against a good Grizzlies team.
Yeah, and there should be a lot of ownership here. We are also waiting on Josh Richardson's status. He was downgraded to questionable earlier. If he's out, that's opening up mid-20s minutes in addition to everything else that's, everyone else that's already out. But, for now, if we assume that Richardson is in, he's pulling 37% ownership at 4K. He'd be likely to play somewhere between 24 and 28 minutes off the bench and look like a good value option here. Trey Jones at 6K has about a 25% usage rate without Vassell or Keldon Johnson on the floor this year. He looks very good. I know I've mentioned him a couple times already, but he looks very good at 6K. Jakob Poeltl is about a 1.25 fantasy point per minute without Keldon Johnson out there. He should give you 26 plus minutes here. We had seen his playing time ramp up a bit recently before he sat out there last game. So he looks really good. Jeremy Sohan gets a bump in usage. He's around 22% without Vassell or Keldon Johnson on the floor. There's just really a lot to like here. Keita Bates-Diop started last game, only played around 21 minutes, but likely to play more. He's averaged 28 minutes as a starter overall this year, especially if Josh Richardson's out. You're likely to get more minutes just because everybody's going to end up playing more. So 3,300 for Keita Bates-Diop, I think makes a lot of sense as well. Right now, he's only projected for 4% ownership, which is strange to me, but I think I'll probably get north of that. Doug McDermott's pulling 22% at 3,200. That's going to change, I assume. There's no way Doug McDermott is 22% and Keita Bates-Diop is 4%.
If Richardson ends up sitting, because right now you've got Richardson, we have him at 37%. Just making sure we're not missing any news here. Okay, just Larry Nance's a game time decision. He was probable, but
still probably. Yeah, I mean, that's just coaches.
Yeah, for sure. If Richardson's out, are we looking at a team now that becomes just getting loads of them? I mean, obviously more than we are now, but the value that could open up in the event that Richardson sits along with Keldon Johnson could be crazy.
Yeah, because you would start getting pretty shorthanded. Dominic Barlow's in the G League. I guess they have Blake Wesley back. He's not on the injury report. But already giving 24 minutes to Josh Richardson, you still get to 26 on Langford, 20 apiece on McDermott and Branham, 26 on Bates-Diop, 12 on Stanley Johnson. If you take out Josh Richardson's minutes, there's a good chance Stanley Johnson's playing a little bit more. You're probably getting a couple more minutes for Langford, McDermott, Bates-Diop, Branham. It's just making these really, really cheap guys have to play a couple of more minutes, which is just going to make them look even more appealing, in addition to the Poeltl, Jones, Sohan type pieces that look good anyway.
Man, I remember when the Pistons drafted Stanley Johnson, I think it was 7th overall.
Yeah, it was 7th or 8th.
Right? And it was 8th, you're right. And everyone's like, man, what a steal. And I kind of thought so too. I thought he was going to be real good. The Stanimal never really materialized for him. But maybe he's viable today. We'll see. Anything else for the Spurs? Did you talk about Pirtle? I'm assuming you did, but I was reading the madness in chat.
Yeah, no, I really like Pirtle here. The only thing working against him is that he's center only, but certainly looks good at 5,900. Should play 26 plus minutes, barring foul trouble, and he's about a 1.25 fantasy point per minute without Keldon Johnson.
Okay, so let's flip to the Memphis side of this one then. Started off with Jaren Jackson. Of course, for those of you guys that jumped in late that weren't here at the top of the show that haven't been following injury news, John Morant, Steven Adams, both seem to be legitimate questionables for this. Shit, listen, if Steven Adams is missing a game for an illness, that fucking guy is sick.
Right.
You know what? Seriously, like that guy's not sitting out a game unless he's sick. And we know that for a fact. So wouldn't be shocking if he doesn't play or he plays and he's just not himself. We'll see. Maybe he's quick recover. Maybe it was a quick recovery. But how about this? Jaren Jackson this year has an 11% block rate. This dude's averaging 3.2 blocks per game, which, would be good on its own, right? Because he leads the league by a bunch, but he's doing it in 26 minutes. Like, you and I have said for ever since he's been in the league, like we called him Jaren Jackson for a while. If he's not in foul trouble, his ability to just rack up counting stats across the board is out of control.
Yeah, it is. The playing time is the only thing that's hurt from a fantasy standpoint, but
yeah,
the upside for him, the production has been great.
What do you want to do with him today? 6,800, of course, pending the news for John Morant and Steven Adams.
I mean, it's kind of like just talking about multiple teams here. Like, if Morant is out, Tyus Jones becomes one of the best value plays on the slate at 4,900. It also makes Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks look even better because you're just getting increased production. Brooks, 1.03 fantasy points per minute without Morant, 29% usage rate. Jackson, 29.5% usage rate. 1.5 fantasy points per minute this year for Jackson in 252 minutes without Morant on the floor. Bane is at 1.4. DraftKings points per minute, 31% usage rate. Now, all three of those numbers, the usage rates and the production probably come down a bit just because they haven't played a lot of minutes where they're all in and Morant's not on the floor. But you're clearly going to see all three of them look underpriced if Morant is out. Jones, again, would look great. But then also with Steven Adams, you already have Brandon Clark out. Yep. So if Steven Adams is out, you have Xavier Tillman at $3,600. He started and played 32.5 minutes yesterday. I would expect similar playing time today if Adams is out, and it's just going to make him look like an unbelievably good point per dollar center option.
He'd be the best value play on the slate, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing like holding him back would be center, but still.
Right. But I mean, if you're taking Steven Adams, like as you just point out, and Clark off the court, because, it's been so many times where like Adams will be out and, Clark gets the ownership, but Tillman gets a bit and then plays decent amount of minutes behind him. Like, you'd have to project him for 30 plus minutes again, right?
Yeah. I mean, they don't have much of anything behind them if Adams and Clark are out. Like, you have Jaren Jackson playing backup center minutes, which again, like if Adams is out and Morant's out, it just keeps getting better for Jaren Jackson. But you don't have anything else that you would really expect to be going to. Like, there's not like a next guy up unless they're going to start playing like Kenneth Lofton, which I don't expect. Oh, and he's also out. He's in the G League. So yeah, they don't have like another center.
Yeah, it's him. Unless, and like, I mean, what's the likelihood that it could, well, it wouldn't because they just don't do, I was going to say result in more minutes for Jaren Jackson, but
I think it would probably, it opens up a couple of more minutes. Like,
yeah, like 3 more 4 minutes.
He played 28.5 yesterday, which is, up a little bit.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't go crazy on the projections, but you can increase, his rebounding percentage. You can increase his rates if Adams is out, and it certainly wouldn't hurt his playing time.
His stock totals really are like one of the most insane things I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable.
He's averaging 4.3 stocks per game. Like, you go ahead.
5.8 blocks and 1.9 steals per 100 possessions this year.
Yo, imagine if he was like a 36 minute per game player that didn't get in a lot of foul trouble.
Right.
It would be he'd be averaging, over 5 stocks per game, which is, I mean, just built in massive value every single time he goes out there. It's remarkable. Anything else you want to do with Memphis here?
I mean, not right now.
Yeah.
There's not a ton else that opens up anyway. I don't think like David Roddy, Zaire Williams, Kennedy Chandler all play mid-teens in minutes, most likely if Morant and Adams are out, but I don't think that's enough to really matter on this slate. Same for Santi Aldama.
We got a super. Oh, Nico Pico with a $10 super chat. Adam, you want to take the honors? You want to do the honors?
No, man, I think this is all you.
All right. I have no problem. Atentacumpo. Thanks, guys. You guys are, or thanks. You guys are great. Thanks, Nico. Appreciate you. You are quickly becoming a legend around there. I'm going to hit the big one. I'm going to celebrate Porzingis style. Eat your Taco Bell twice meme. Yertle, yertle, the Pirtle. Wow, look at the Pirtle go sledge, fox, sledge. We are using random word generators. Jordan's losing his mind over here. This is something else. And he's paying to say this. Incredible. You're the man, Nico. Jordan, if we could, we should gift him a membership, even though we can't do him individually. Just give him a lifetime membership at this point. Incredible. All right. I mean, there's nothing more to that. It's not even like, now, you know what? I'm not going to overthink this. Let's keep going. We got 2 games to get to. Lakers, Denver, and then Orlando, Sacramento. Following that, we'll turn this one over to the boys with Live Before Lock. They'll take you all the way up to 7. Hopefully we get that Memphis news. It's possible. It's an 8:00 game. It's entirely possible that we do. That can make matters a little bit easier. Greg and Eric got you there. Before we go to the Lakers, though, shout out to No House Advantage. I'm sure Jordan can tell me how much overlay there is right there, over there right now, because my assumption is that there's plenty. That is, it's pretty smart. They say, listen, you're gonna like our format, right? You're gonna like what we've done. You know, kind of taking DFS, turning it into player props, play against the field. You're gonna like what we've done, right? But in order to get you to check it out, just massive baked-in overlay every single day. And you don't get that at FanDuel and DraftKings. You get it at No House Advantage. They also up the first match deposit bonus to $100. All you're doing is building lineups with player props. There's no juice on either side. The props are static too, meaning they're not changing throughout the day. Whatever they are in the morning, they are at night. So you could get real edges there. You're just building lineup, player props, playing against the field. Just like any other place. There's no salary cap, but the ones you like the most, they go at the top. They get the most points. The ones you're least confident go at the bottom. They get the fewest points. And here's the kicker. Outside of the overlay, outside of the $100 first match deposit bonus, the fact is that Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, built tools specifically for No House Advantage. They're entirely free over at Stokastic. The No House Advantage optimal lineups tool, the player prop projections, all of those at your guys' disposal to use every day of the week when you sign up and play there. So check it out. Check out the overlay. Take advantage of that. Use our tools. Get the $100 first match deposit bonus. Do so in order to, though, use the link in the description. Use the link that Jordan threw in the chat, and we'll see you over there. No House Advantage, wonderful sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right. Talk to me about the Lakers, man. They are on the road. Big dogs here against the Denver Nuggets. 13 points, 237.5 total. Troy Brown out, but the big news is that LeBron James went probable, questionable, out, and Russell Westbrook is expected to play. So no surprise that he's pulling 50% ownership right now.
Yeah, this team is just so difficult to talk about because, for one, they have just so many bad interchangeable players that it's really tough to like be overly confident in playing time for a lot of these guys. But without the, and then also they should just get run off the floor by Denver. But you know, we just saw OKC drop like 150 on somebody, so can't put too much stock into that. But without LeBron and Davis on the floor this year, 1.38 DraftKings points per minute for Westbrook, 33% usage rate, just shy of a 46% assist percentage, 12+% rebounding percentage. He looks great for as many minutes as he can be out there. I think projecting low 30s makes sense. You know, kind of factors in that the game could get out of hand. If it goes down to the wire, though, he's probably playing mid 30s. Thomas Bryant, same kind of thing. $6,300 price tag. He's played 198 minutes without Davis or LeBron this year. 1.12 DraftKings points per minute. It's kind of just a matter of, does he get in foul trouble and does the game stay relatively competitive. But if he avoids foul trouble and the game is close, he's likely to play mid-30s. I think expecting 30 to 32 makes sense. Dennis Schroeder should play 36 minutes, give or take. He has played 173 minutes without James and Davis, 1.09 DraftKings points per minute with a 24.4% usage rate. So those three look good. Then I think it kind of starts to get dicey, and you do need to probably see a starting lineup. My guess, so like Patrick Beverley, I expect to start. I expect the starting lineup to be Beverley, Schroeder, Bryant, probably Toscano Anderson, and then my guess for the fifth spot is Wenyen Gabriel. They haven't been playing him alongside Thomas Bryant a ton, but they have played about 60 minutes next to each other. He's been subbing in for LeBron recently. So that's my guess. You could get Sterling Brown. You could get Max Christie. You could get a weird lineup with Kendrick Nunn and just go with three guards, I guess. But my guess for right now is Wenyen Gabriel. But like if Wenyen Gabriel starts, projecting him for around 24 minutes is reasonable and it makes him look like a good value at 3,200. If he comes off the bench, then he could just be the backup center. We don't really know. And he would be a lot riskier. Toscano Anderson at 3,100. If he plays 24 minutes, he looks okay, but still not like anything special. Kendrick Nunn's pulling 15% ownership right now. I just don't have him getting as many minutes as his projection suggests. If he starts, then by all means go to a $3,300 Kendrick Nunn. But if he's coming off the bench, I'm expecting him to play like 18 to 20 minutes, which wouldn't be getting me to him if he's going to pull 15% ownership. So I think for me, Westbrook, Bryant, Schroeder are the ones that I feel confident in their production on a per minute basis. And then I kind of need to know the starting lineup. If Gabriel starts, I like him. If he doesn't, I don't. Beverly should play around 30 minutes. The problem is just that he's not a good point per minute guy, regardless of who's on the floor. 0.57 DraftKings points per minute for Beverly in 110 minutes without LeBron and Davis this year. So even though I feel pretty good about his playing time, I don't feel very good about his production while he's out there.
Outside of Westbrook, is Gabriel your favorite player from the Lakers at 3,200?
Not if he's. It depends if he's starting or not.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of in limbo here. All right, let's talk about Denver here. Jordan, by the way, I need you to get on some real producer shit here. Figure out who Nico is and get this man on the show. I need to meet him.
I don't know if we're ready to have this guy on the show.
I need to meet Nico Pico. I think the world deserves to meet this man.
Yeah, maybe like we start a new channel and then we just do like one video on that channel just in case.
I don't even think we need a vetting process. We just wing it. You might not see me again, but it would be worth it. Talk to me about Denver. Nikola Jokic at the top. You mentioned earlier with Giannis, not the greatest game environment, 12K, not pulling a lot of ownership. No, Jokic, on the other hand, of course, good environment here. I will say there is legitimate we don't talk blowout risk. There is some legitimate blowout risk, but maybe Nikola Jokic does it all in three quarters. He's getting 23%. Gordon coming in around 13. Porter right around 10. Jamal Murray, making his way close to that 8% range, but it all starts and ends with this team whenever we talk about Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, and it's always just less risky going to the team that you expect to win by a lot if the game gets out of hand, just because there's a good chance that at least one of these guys is producing at an above average rate if that happens. Jokic at 11.7, highest projected raw total on the slate for me and for the site. He looks great. The only issue is just, you have so many good mid-range centers that we've already talked about, and then you potentially have Xavier Tillman taking up a center spot at 3,600. So it's possible that it just ends up being difficult for Jokic to get into as many lineups as you would like, but I'm certainly happy with whatever Jokic I get to. I think Jamal Murray is really interesting at 8%, though. He's 6,800. We've seen him playing mid-30s in games that are competitive. It's a good matchup, clearly. It's not difficult to see how, this game could just kind of go the way of Jamal Murray, and he just takes over, and he's 8% owned. So I really do like Jamal Murray in tournaments. Aaron Gordon looks fine at 6,600. I do also think it's interesting to note that Michael Porter Jr. played 32 minutes last game, or 33 minutes last game. So his playing time has been increasing a little bit, but his price tag hasn't moved. He's still 5,900 on DraftKings. So, Jokic is clearly the guy that I would like to get to the most. But from a roster construction standpoint, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up with a little bit more Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.
Okay. Murray's just always such a tough, like he's not expensive, but he's not cheap. And he's just clearly the number 2, basically regarding everything in this offense. Like even, from a playmaking perspective, from a usage perspective, I don't even know how to explain Jamal Murray. I guess he's just your average mid-range guy playing behind a 2-time reigning MVP.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me because the salaries come down a little bit, and you just get those games where Jamal Murray takes over, and it's not like, I mean, it's such a good matchup for everybody. It shouldn't be surprising if Murray's just coming down the floor and calling his own number, and it just turns into a Jamal Murray game at very low ownership.
Yeah, no, perfectly reasonable. Yeah, you're right. Like Jamal Murray can absolutely go nuclear in any spot. We've seen that countless times before. Ready to wrap this up with Orlando and Sacramento?
Yep.
All right. And hey, appreciate you guys hanging with us as always. Always a blast here on the Deeper Dive, getting the band back together. Over 500 likes. Appreciate you. I told you we'd be there easily. Probably hit 600 by 6 p.m. We'll carry the next show. They won't have to do a thing. They can thank us. And last thing, if you guys are looking for 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, 2 free months, not just basketball, every single sport. You'd have everything for the NFL playoffs. You'd have everything for basketball through what? March 9th. You got PGA in full swing, all of that, everything. And that's only, we're just scratching the surface. MMA, every sport out there. If there's contests, we got content, all the tools you need to win. 2 free months. All you do is take the link for BetMGM, assuming it's available to you, click it. If you have 2 minutes of time and $10, you sign up. That's all it takes. Put $10 down, put that $10 on any game. Okay. And you don't have to win or lose, whatever you bet, you're getting 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. It's $240, massive value, $240 value. Also, if your bet loses, no matter how much, up to $1,000, your first bet loses, you're getting that all back in bonus bets as well. It's a legitimate no-brainer. If you're someone that said, hey, I wanted to get involved, I watched the Hall of Fame segment, why am I not up there? Let me get up. Here you go. Here's your chance. Playing small stakes. Maybe you're grinding it out. You can't justify paying that much per month. Well, now you can get it all for $10 for 2 months, win some money, and hopefully stick around, because that's why we do this. We want you guys to stick around, check out the tools. And the obvious thing here, we wouldn't do this if we didn't expect and we didn't think you would win and hang out after. So check it out. Link for MGM in the description and in chat. And of course, join our Discord when you sign up. Join the Stokastic family, not just on YouTube, but over there on Discord as well. All right, Adam, let's close it out. Orlando Magic here on the road. I saw it. We'll get there. We'll close the show with Nick. Is it a good one? I didn't read it yet. All right. Orlando 6-point dogs, 237.5 total. Bol remains out. That's really the only relevant injury news we've got for the Magic.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting back to close to full strength after their entire team was suspended over a multi-game window. It's a very appealing game environment, but this side of the game, I think, is relatively difficult to get to just because they are getting back to full strength and salaries are pretty much correct. Paolo Banchero is the only guy on DraftKings pulling double-digit ownership. He's 8,200, small forward, power forward, clearly has a very high ceiling here, but there's just a lot of guys that look similar. Wendell Carter Jr., 6% owned, $6,400 center only on DraftKings. So the opportunity cost is keeping the ownership down. On FanDuel, he has power forward eligibility, so should be easier to get to. Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Franz Wagner, all fine in tournaments. Good pieces, good ways to differentiate a particular lineup, but just not guys that I think you're going to have a very easy time getting a lot of or building around, just because there are so many plays that just look a little bit better.
With Sacramento, how do you view Sabonis today compared to the other high-priced players?
I really like Sabonis because it's going to be tough to get to him. He's center only, so he runs into the same issue that you have with Jokic, where there's opportunity cost, and that's why Jokic is only 20 or 23%, whatever he was. With Sabonis, he's only 12%. He is $1,200 less than Jokic in terms of actual salary, but he also projects like 9 points lower. So I really like the spot for Sabonis. I like the idea of getting to him at like less than half the ownership of Jokic. Hope that game does blow out and maybe Jokic just ends up with like 56 and 3/4 and Sabonis is able to beat him or something like that. But at the same time, it's just going to be difficult to get to that position. I think it's more likely that maybe I just go like with mid-range centers and paying up somewhere else. But I do like getting to Sabonis if you can get there. He's in a good spot. He's a really, really good fantasy player. He's playing 36 plus minutes in competitive games. De'Aaron Fox looks pretty good at 8,700 as well, pulling 13% ownership. Malik Monk's 4,500. He said he's playing. I expect him to play low to mid 20s in minutes, pulling 4% ownership. That probably comes up a little bit between now and lock, but it's another way to kind of differentiate your lineups. And then you get to the wings here with Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray. They're not as exciting as Sabonis or Fox. That goes without saying, but they are going to be pretty easy to fit into lineups, and none of them are pulling that much ownership. So I think LeBron being ruled out changed this slate because like this morning, you just had tons and tons of ownership going to Sacramento. Those guys on Sacramento look just as good right now as they did this morning. The only difference is now there's ownership going to a bunch of shitty players on the Lakers instead.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. Hey, stick around. Live before lock. You're going to need this. NBA is a fickle beast. And with the news breaking that we're likely going to get within the next hour, those guys will cover you. Eric Lindquist, Greg Ehrenberg. We'll close it out with a final super chat from our boy, instant legend, Nico Pico. Shout out to Sotec, world emoji. Let's go. Good luck, boys. My bets are in. I'm hitting the Pirtle pot. Man, the jackpot. And as Nico Pico has always said, yertle, yertle, the Pirtle. Wow, look at that Pirtle go. Sledge, Fox, sledge. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive. Peace. What a wild one. What?
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the inaugural January 9th edition of the NBA Bet Pro video. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And in these videos, we're going to be walking through a new tool that we've built that should be able to really help you with your NBA prop betting. We have the best bets available for several relevant sports books. You can go into the tool. You can go to whatever sportsbook you prefer to bet on. Find the best options there. You'll have our projection for each prop, the line on that sportsbook, the odds for that sportsbook. You can also see some other stats that we have here. Your expected value on the bet, your bet percentage, which is the percentage of your bankroll that we believe you should be wagering on the given prop, the SEV, which is how much your bankroll would be expected to grow for that prop if you bet the recommended amount. So there's a lot of stuff in here that you can use. You can also use this if you are someone that has a bankroll on multiple sports books. You can use this to kind of just go in and see where the best bets for the day are. We load this up every day at noon and then adjust it throughout the day. We also recently just added some more information to it because, obviously throughout the course of a day, especially with basketball, you have questionable players. So we now have injury statuses as well. Questionable players are highlighted in yellow. You'll also get you can't see it on this screen right now, but there's also players highlighted if their teammates are questionable, so that if maybe it's saying that betting the over on somebody is profitable, but if their questionable teammate plays, then it wouldn't be. So that's an easy way for you to, be able to look and see, what bets you really should be taking on each site. But should be a very, very useful tool for player prop betting. And for new users, we are offering a 7-day free trial to use the NBA Bet Pro tool. So just sign up and take advantage of that 7-day free trial. So we are in this video going to go through on 4 of the sports books, BetMGM, Caesars, DraftKings, and FanDuel, looking at the top bets of the day. Starting with BetMGM, we have Russell Westbrook taking on the Denver Nuggets tonight in Denver. Westbrook's line, he's minus 125 to go under 8.5 assists. We have that with a 59% win percentage. We are only projecting him for 7.3 assists. He does, of course, benefit with Anthony Davis out, But this is still a game also where there's a 10-point spread. So there's no guarantee that Westbrook is playing his full minutes here. And 8.5 assists, obviously a pretty healthy number as well. So we have this as the top bet on BetMGM. If you bet 6.74%.
I definitely missed something.
Yeah, I'm good, Jordan.
Go.
Should I just like pretend to not start now? We get to the bottom of the countdown.
So
Should I
here
just
for
sit
it.
here, be like, oh,
Just
how was I supposed to know the show
Screw
was
with
gonna
Jordan.
start?
That sounds fun.
Yeah. All right, we are ready for the show, Jordan. Welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock. As you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to No House Advantage, who is sponsoring our show today. And Eric and I are ready to talk about basketball. You know how I know we're ready to talk about basketball, Eric?
How do you know that we're ready to talk about basketball, Greg?
Because I was just asked 15 times. I was ready to talk about basketball.
Are you ready? Are you ready? No, I'm sorry. No, I'm my bad, dude, bro, chill. No, I'm sorry, bro, dude. Why? What? No, chill. Here's just the thing, dude, bro. My aunt, we were golfing. It was fun, dude, bro, chill.
Exactly. So we are ready to go. Although, are the players ready to go? We don't know yet. Particularly,
Are you ready to go, Greg?
Memphis.
You ready to talk basketball?
Yeah, are you?
Are you ready to talk basketball? I'm ready to talk basketball.
You got No House Advantages.
It's like the little mouse from Space Jam. I love playing basketball. I love to play basketball, but I'm basketball. Yeah. Cool.
By the way, Jordan, is it a thing? Like, do you get nervous before the show starts? Why do you ask us like 80 times if we're ready?
Great question.
I do get nervous. Yeah, I get nervous every time. It's like the first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk
All
about
right.
Eric's Debo take yesterday. Why don't we talk about my Eli Mitchell take instead? Fuck off. How about that?
Yeah, let's go through all of Eric's football takes.
My
that
1%
nobody gives a shit
takes
about.
that one worked out, one didn't. Leave me alone, idiot.
More importantly,
Go timeout.
More importantly, the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. John Moran is questionable. Steven Adams is also questionable. And the timing of the game, not too bad. It's a 6-game slate, only 3 games start before. What is going to be most important for me, though, is that this game starts before the Lakers-Denver game, which is basically going to give me infinity ability to swap. So I don't really think I have to make any kind of adjustments for the Morant and Adams injury news, because if they get ruled in, if they get ruled out, I have got plenty of flexibility to swap because of the amount of exposure that I'm getting to Lakers-Denver. But how are you playing this scenario?
Doing the same thing. I'm playing actually, no, that's not true. I have like the $4 on DK, but I'm playing primarily on FanDuel today. I just kind of like the way my lineups look over there. I like having the extra spot, extra flexibility. I'm same thing as you, where, playing FanDuel keeps me from playing, 4 or 5 guys from some of these spots. So it's pretty simple, I think, just because of the timing of it, both being a little bit later. You get the 8 p.m. Eastern time Memphis spot. You get the 9 p.m. Eastern time Denver, Los Angeles spot. It's going to be pretty simple, I think. So I'm backloading lineups. I think most people are backloading lineups, playing a lot of Giannis, making sure I get to that, because I do think we're going to have infinite value in some capacity. So I'm just doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, also when it comes to the situation with the Lakers, which is going to be an important one for this slate. So I think we should also talk about who we're prioritizing from the Lakers, because LeBron James is out. Anthony Davis is out. So with that in mind, this is definitely, at least as of now, the preeminent value spot on the slate. If we do find out from the Grizzlies that John Morant and or Steven Adams are going to be out, now it obviously introduce more value to us. Are you setting any kind of rules on a maximum amount of Lakers players that you're going to be allowing into lineups?
So I mean, on FanDuel 4.
All right, there we go. 12 days in a row having made that joke. Keep the streak going.
I don't know what else you want me to say.
How many players are you allowing in the from the Lakers?
4.
From DraftKings as well?
DraftKings, I think I would limit it to 4 too. I don't think I have any desire to go 5. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think you would even really get there where you would get to 5 unless you just had some really interesting things going on. But I'm looking at my first crunch of stuff, just playing 20 lineups over there, and I do not see any with 5.
Yeah, and we've got, by the way, the reason this is such an important spot on the slate, because we've got Jason Violante in chat is saying, talking about the Lakers already, this is a bad sign. No, I mean, this is pretty clearly the best value spot that we have on the slate right now. We could talk about whether we think the players are picking up too much ownership or not enough. But I mean, there's no way to avoid talking about the Lakers today. Just looking at some of our ownership projections, Russell Westbrook is projected to be the most popular player on the slate at DraftKings, 48% owned. Wenyen Gabriel, second most popular, 41%. Then we've got Thomas Bryant projected for 21%, Kendrick Nunn at 19%, Dennis Schroeder 15% over on DK. For FanDuel purposes, Gabriel, 44%. Russell Westbrook, 34%. Then we got Dennis Schroeder, 27% on FanDuel. And then Kendrick Nunn coming in at 23%. There's no way we can not talk about them because, number one, it's a smaller slate. There's only 6 games. These are the most popular players on the slate. But LeBron James was ruled out unexpectedly. So it's just pretty clearly, at least how things stand right now, the best value spot on the slate. But when we're looking at some of these players, first, Eric, as far as the chalky players go, and the 2 most popular being Russell Westbrook and Wenyen Gabriel, do you think that the ownership on those 2 guys is warranted?
Yes. Wenyen Gabriel. Oh, hang on. Yeah, 43.7% he's pulling. I'm underneath that. Let's be serious. Russell Westbrook, there's no amount of Russell Westbrook you could have in your lineups above 40% that I would say no to. Like you could play as much as you wanted. And he's coming off the bench. I think that's just going to be what they do regardless in a lot of these spots. And he's played awesome of late. It's one of those things I was kind of thinking about how much money I was going to lose coming off of that Sacramento game where he was the only piece I was really fading from it. Him and Dennis Schroeder, and they just went completely berserk together. That was frustrating. But now I'm completely on the opposite side of it. Dennis Schroeder and Russell Westbrook, my 2 highest owned players currently. I guess Steven Adams could easily turn into that as well. Thomas Bryant, just an absolute smash play, both sites. Nothing could get me away from those 3. The Wenyen Gabriel one, I do think you're kind of looking at hoping you get a little bit of that blowout, which isn't out of the question at 13, which is where the spread's currently sitting at. But he's definitely the piece I am the most willing to get away from. I've kind of done that on every slate where Wenyen Gabriel's been chalky, and I think I'm going to continue to do that. We haven't seen him really eclipse 20 minutes, even in these spots without LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So I don't know why I would just miraculously expect him to become that now. He is 3,800 on FanDuel, so I'm going to have a little bit, but I don't want 40% of him. I can tell you that much.
So let's go back to the rotations. The last game LeBron missed, that was January 4th. Don't have to go that long ago, less than a week ago against the Miami Heat. And one thing I will say is that Wenyen Gabriel was projected to be super popular that day, and then he did not end up being super popular. He only played 19 minutes. I mean, I'm with you. I think for cash games, sure, go play Wenyen Gabriel is a good cost-saving option. This seems like a lot of ownership going to a guy who we just saw the same scenario play out, a few days ago, and he got 19 minutes. So it's hard for me to expect too much more than that.
Yep, I'm with you. It's really, I think it's more of like people want to play Giannis, Jokic, and it's always weird when you look at things being like, oh, I thought he was going to be popular or not popular, because there's so many things, whether it's late news, whether it's early chalk that people had already locked in, and then, a change in ownership there, whether there's a lot of factors that go into it. Maybe people thought he was going to start for whatever reason, which was definitely not going to be the case. I think it's just people looking for a super cheap play. Now, Xavier Tillman could easily become that as well, down there at 3,600 on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, you get another piece on the cheap end that could show up in a lot of lineups for you. He has the power forward eligibility over there at 3,900. That could be a massive piece of our lineups as we wait on the Adams news. But for the most part, it's just like Wenyen Gabriel's just a dude. And you tell me he's going to be 40%. It's kind of like an auto going under the field.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as the Lakers players go here, I do think that some of the, I understand why people are getting to all of these players. Like, I understand why people are getting to Wenyen Gabriel a lot. But I do think that there's other guys from the Lakers that are maybe going a little bit underrepresented that I just like more. Like Thomas Bryant, only 20% owned. I would much rather play Thomas Bryant at 20% than Wenyen Gabriel at 40%. And the other one too, Dennis Schroeder. I know Schroeder's more popular on FanDuel, where he's projected right now for, I mentioned before, 27% ownership. If he's actually going to be 15% owned on DraftKings, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just jam him.
And then are there any other Lakers players that are lower owned, or anybody else that we should be taking shots on that maybe the field isn't taking notice of?
Yeah, I think the field's taking notice of him, but it's somebody you can still take shots on. I don't like it at 23% on FanDuel at the moment, but Kendrick Nunn, even with LeBron in for that Atlanta game, he got it to 27 minutes. He's kind of a hot hand dude where if he gets it going, he could be a difference maker for you. He is 3,900. You can say that about a lot of guys on a lot of slates. Like if this ends up blowing out, you can get to some Bones Highland who, he's way too expensive over on FanDuel at 5,500, but looking at him on DraftKings, I think getting access to a guy who's sub 5K who could be a part of a blowout narrative. If you're going to be a little bit lower on somebody, getting to some Bones Highland, getting to some Bruce Brown, even at 5K. I mean, they're pulling what, sub 1% for Bruce Brown. Bones Highland's pulling like 7%. I think you can get really, really wonky with some of that. Maybe put some Wendy and Gabriel in that if you're hand building. I doubt I do a whole lot there. But Kendrick Nunn, pretty clear cut that he's super cheap, gives you some kind of access to a ceiling at 3,300 on DraftKings. I expect him to be playing minutes no matter what. It's just a question of like, does he get it going and play 25? And if the game does blow out, pretty good chance that he's out there in that closing lineup.
And by the way, something to add, because what a lot of people might do here, pushback, which I think would be totally reasonable, by the way, is say, well, the last time that LeBron James was out, Kendrick Nunn only played 15 minutes. Here's where the scenario is different. In that game that I referenced before, where I was looking at the minutes for Thomas Bryant, was looking at Wendy and Gabriel, a couple players were in that game. Austin Reeves, he's out now. And the other one also being Troy Brown Jr. So that's an extra 45 minutes that we have to allocate to other players. And I do think Kendrick Nunn is one of the first guys that's going to benefit in that kind of scenario. The one reason I find it hard to project Wendy and Gabriel for, like 30 minutes or for him to just be a guy who picks up a whole bunch of that playing time is because he doesn't play very much alongside Thomas Bryant. And as long as Thomas Bryant is out on the court and playing well, which has been the case more often than not lately, I think it probably takes Thomas Bryant foul trouble to really get a ceiling out of minutes from Wendy and Gabriel. So that's where I'm standing on it.
Yeah. And is it like a 44% chance that Wendy and Gabriel gets in foul trouble against Nikola Jokic? I would say no. So, I mean, it's just like looking at that play at 44%, people just assuming he's going to somehow play more than 24 minutes or something. I think that's just kind of wrong. I hope you guys aren't projecting him out that way, because I'm certainly not. We've got him right around 24 here at Stokastic. Again, I think that's a little bit on the high end. We've been so on and so good with projections and minutes of late. That's why you've seen so many Stokastic avatars at the top of tournaments. I mean, just yesterday, I think there were like 5 or 6 people who had the same lineup and ended up splitting. It was one of our top projected lineups here at Stokastic with the projections alone. So that stuff's been working out fantastic. I think Wendy and Gabriel, maybe the reason there's a couple more extra minutes added to it is the assumption of some type of a blowout. But I've currently got him in for 20 minutes, and that is getting me to about 0 of him.
By the way, we just got news that Josh Richardson is going to be in today. Now, normally,
Joy.
Who gives a shit about Josh Richardson normally? That's not usually somebody who we really care about all that much. But he is somebody who's in a pretty strong spot today. So Josh Richardson, just because of all of the injuries right now to the Spurs, and here's what we're dealing with from San Antonio. We have no Devin Vassell, probably for an extended period of time. There's no reason to rush him back. Just underwent knee surgery. Keldon Johnson, he's also going to be out for a week or two. In their absence, one of the guys who just would make sense, would play some more minutes, is Josh Richardson. Now, is he going to start? Most likely not. He came off the bench last game. But what is your feeling on Josh Richardson? Just because he has a clear ceiling here. We've seen him be one of the better value plays on a lot of slates when the Spurs have been shorthanded, but the minutes are really, really difficult to project.
Yeah, he kind of goes into that same bucket of just hot hand approach type scorers like a Bones Highland or something. Not saying they're the same player, same skill set, but it's like you get it going or you get blowout run, or there's just different ways for it to work out. And a couple of these ceilings have been achieved in closer games here. My biggest problem on FanDuel is that he's up to 5,300 now over there. We'll see if I get any access to him, but doesn't really feel like he's going to get prioritized over anything that I'm getting, like the Patrick Beverleys, the guys who are just kind of in that range, that 4 or 5K range over there. Over on DK, I think that's where you kind of have a little bit more of a decision to make, because he's 4K and he's just a smash right now. He's getting a ton of ownership. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. I mean, for me, I'll probably get to a little bit, nothing crazy, but considering I'm playing over on FanDuel more, probably not going to change a lot of my lineups. I'm not sure what you're planning to do with them on DK.
Yeah. So as far as Josh Richardson goes, I'm going to be interested to see what ends up happening with his ownership, just from a standpoint of, he was expected to be popular, then was questionable all day, ended up not getting ruled in until, 30 minutes till the slate starts. Maybe that has some kind of impact here. But in terms of the really chalky value options, he's my favorite of them, right? Like if I had to, because by the way, we're comparing just the other popular plays. Like I'd rather play Josh Richardson than Wenyen Gabriel. I'd rather play Josh Richardson than Grant Williams, who's also projected for a whole bunch of ownership. So like amongst those guys, I prefer Richardson.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now we just got Steven Adams in, so we're not getting any other value there. Different positions. Obviously, you're looking at Memphis, and we were thinking about Tillman or things of that nature. But with Steven Adams in, obviously, I'm probably on board with you looking at the DK board where he's kind of an inevitable piece over there. FanDuel, we'll see where that ownership lands at. I mean, for me, it's going to be Trey Jones for that basketball team at 6,200. I'll still get to a little bit there. But it's just a difficult team to get to and prioritize anything outside of Josh Richardson, DK.
We just got a super chat here from Victor Melendez. And by the way, if you want to be his questions for us in Discord at me, we could answer those. One of the perks of getting a Stokastic Plus Platinum membership, which by the way, you guys could get for free for 5 days at any point in time when you're signing up for the first time. And that is going to come with access to our Discord chat, a Stokastic Plus Platinum package, get access to our player projections, our ownership projections, our new lineup generator that's just going to make lineups for you, plus EV lineups as well. All you have to do is a couple clicks to the button. It's really good. If you guys are in a pinch or for whatever reason you didn't have time to watch the show prepare during the day, go check out the lineup generator, have it make some lineups for you. So super convenient and plus EV tool to use. All that behind the Stokastic Plus play wall that you could get for free for $5 when you sign up for the first time. But the super chat that we got here is from Victor Melendez. He just wants to say, shout out Nico Pico. Nico Pico is apparently a prominent piece of the deep dive. He left some super chats that Jordan sent to me, and they were good reads. Nicola over, Nicola for to win, celebrating with Antetokounmpo and Pirtle though. Chalk.
What is going on?
Eric.
Huh?
Just answer his question, Eric.
I missed something. I didn't get to watch the show before because it is pouring rain outside and I have to get my dog in and out, and I'm, single dad dog today. My wife set up some kind of a event space. She's playing mini golf right now for Paramount Plus on the lot. And I'm here at home wiping off a wet dog every hour. It's just stupid. Yeah. So I have no freaking idea what I missed.
That seems like a lot of excuses to not want to answer Victor Melendez's question. So I'll read to you the question again, and I'm ready. Better answer him this time.
I will. Okay.
Shout out Nico Pico.
Okay.
Nicola over Nicola for to win. Celebrating with Antetokounmpo. And Pirtle though, chalk, Eric. This man left his money. You gonna answer his question or not?
To the no house chisel, shizzle fizzle, got a bizzle dizzle with the homies in the mizzle. How you doing, bro? Ha ha ha. To the bar. Got to drop the hot sauce like Chipotle, guacamole. Hip hopopotamus. My lyrics are bottomless.
All right, so there we go. Victor, that is going to answer your question from Eric. For me, boy, this is a tough one to answer. I got to be honest. I don't even know if I have a strong stand on this one. Appreciate the super chat, Victor. The next super chat we have is from John Bryant. He wants to know, is Stokastic down? I can't pull it up. Let me see. Let me refresh. So I just refreshed the ownership page, running a little bit slow, but I don't think it's down. I just think it's running a little slow right now. Are you having any issues?
Nope, none.
What do you think? What do you think about Nicola over Nicola for to win though?
4 to the floor.
All right. The next super chat we have is, by the way, if I was our friend Victor and I got that kind of answer from you, I would just not be happy, Eric. I don't think you addressed this question at all.
But I'll think of something else. I don't know. I think I did a pretty adequate job of answering.
That's all you have to do is answer his question. I mean, we got a super chat from Goods. Are there any videos on using Fantasy Cruncher more efficiently? Yes, we actually have tutorials that Alex has made tutorials. Josh Engelman has made tutorials. If you have a Twitter account and you message me, I could send that to you. If not, I'll find it to post in the YouTube chat. So we have them on our YouTube channel, where it's just Josh walking through Fantasy Cruncher, building lineups for basketball. We've got other ones for football as well. So if you guys have any questions about that, message me on Twitter, but then also we could get that to you when it comes to tutorials. And here we go. Here's Nico Pico.
Oh no.
Yes, let's go for the win. It's time. The Cuz files are here. Bigfoot captured and engaged right now, where I'm taking refugees in from the storm. Let's go. My money is set, waiting to see the green. Let's go, Taco. Are you gonna answer this question at least, Eric?
Look, I'm still nice with my hood thing. Look, man, it's a hood thing. That's why I'm born in Brooklyn. I handle mine just like a real brother should. If I do some time, okay, I'm still all good. Let me tell you what a thug about. Born to die. I took the bullets out of 50, put them in my 4.5, and I haven't even got my feet wet yet. A 7-figure brother who ain't seen a royalty check. Ha. There you go.
I just feel like you're being really rude and not answering our customers' questions. By the way, also, did somebody drug me and not tell me about this?
Are you in an alternate reality? I feel like I am right now.
Like, have you ever heard the story about the time that comedian Ari Shafir drugged Bert Kreischer with Molly when he wasn't paying attention, just kind of spiked him and drugged him? That's what I feel like happening right now. Nobody's told me this.
Welcome to the alternate reality, my homie. Nico Pico bringing the Bico. Fee fi fo Fico, Nico.
All right, I'm going to read this one more time because I think I need to give a more effective answer than what Eric gave. So once again, Nico Pico is saying, yes, let's go for the win. It's time. The Cuz files are here. Bigfoot captured and engaged right now. We're here taking refugees in from the storm. Let's go. My money is set, waiting to see the green. Let's go, Taco. Dude, I agree. I think those are really strong points.
All right. So we're still waiting on news, guys. And yeah, now the site's down, so I can't do anything.
All right.
Guess I'm going to get off of all my FanDuel lineups. Can I cancel 150 FanDuel lineups in the next, I don't know, 32 minutes?
Well,
we'll wait.
If you message support, they're not going to help you anymore because they're.
I understand that. They can't even run a functional website. I'm out here just out here, slinging, just trying to make it work, baby. Trying to make it work. Can't really help it. It just always hurt. Can't really stop whatever is happening.
I have a conspiracy theory here.
Go ahead.
I think Nico Pico. I think Nico Pico hacked into our website. It's the only possible solution. It's the only thing that makes sense. Nico Pico is taking over. He's taken over everything.
We're taking over.
Jorge Giacomi has left us a super chat as well. Shall we bring Matt the Rapper to address this? Also, given the mid-range players that look good today, what's your stand on Giannis and Jokic? I much prefer Jokic today. Mm-hmm. And here's the main reason why I prefer Jokic. Well, two reasons why. Number one, I just project him better. But the other part of this also, he correlates so much better with all the Lakers players, because I have so much Lakers exposure right now. If those Lakers guys are going to pay off, it means that they've played really well and they've kept this game competitive. It's hard for me to see a path to where I have lineups that are loaded with Lakers, and then them doing well wouldn't also mean that Nikola Jokic is more likely to do well. So it just makes more sense for my builds to have Jokic in as opposed to Giannis. It doesn't mean Giannis is a bad play. I just prefer Jokic.
Yeah, and that entire game is coming in with negative leverage in the boom bust right now. And I do expect them to be even more popular, perhaps, than what we're showing right now. I mean, Russell Westbrook, my God, 42% ownership, 35% optimal. Yeah, he's negatively leveraged, but for the most part, these are the best plays, best sources of value. Josh Richardson, you kind of throw that into the mix too and get to a ton of him. You want to be on the quick trigger to be able to play Desmond Bane. I'm kind of surprised that he's playing basketball today on this back-to-back coming off of a toe issue. This is the first back-to-back, I believe, that he's played since he got back. So maybe he's just good to go and they're ready to rock. But Desmond Bane, if there's going to be no John Morant, true game time decision is going to come in way under-owned. I'm going to get to tons of him, but I'm looking at my lineups. It's a lot of Lakers. Jokic correlates. I still want to get to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think on FanDuel, depending on what happens here in the next 30 minutes, making sure we can get everything up and running. I'm definitely going to be getting to both of them, but I'm with you. Correlates more with my lineups getting to Jokic.
And then the other thing to ask you, just because you were just bringing up the point about the Memphis Grizzlies, and a lot of people are talking about what happens if John Morant is that we don't have to worry about Steven Adams, like you mentioned before. He's going to be in. He was upgraded to in after he was listed as questionable. What are you going to do with John Morant if he plays, though? Because this does seem like a piece who has a lot of upside going against the Spurs that I assume the field is just not going to really get to all that much because people are waiting for him to get ruled out, but not really waiting for him to get ruled in.
Yeah, it's weird. I think I have enough Russell Westbrook, Dennis Schroeder. I think what's going to happen is I'm probably going to turn a lot of Westbrook, Schroeder into some John Morant and Kendrick Nunn, perhaps. I mean, I haven't looked at the salaries here. I'm kind of waiting to see to kind of put those together and kind of see what those swaps look like. I'll sometimes just do a mock swap where I kind of put them in and exit out in one way and see if I can kind of get to those salaries. But I mean, John Morant being 10-3 makes it a little bit more difficult. You can preload and build out some lineups where he's in it. You're just going to have to maneuver a lot of things. And it's weird to me. It would be very weird to me if you had only John Morant and nobody coming up for those evenings or for the evening window with the Los Angeles Lakers coming up there. So I'm not thinking about it too much. I think whatever I get to is probably an adequate number. He's currently 6%. I wouldn't want to even get like 15, 20% of him on a slate where I prefer Sabonis as a pay up. I prefer strongly Jokic and Giannis. So I'm going to be landing more in that side of it. And maybe whatever Morant I'm able to get to, I'll just get to a little bit.
Got a super chat from Chard Rosman Porzinghi. He's left us a $5 to get some Viagra with so we could get the site up. All right. I like it.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever used any performance enhancers, Eric?
I'm not. I don't need it. Come on now.
You are missing out. Super chat from King fucking Dash. 1 dart throw in 1 lineup, FanDuel cash. Let's get it. So let's I know that it's not really a direct question, but if you're building a cash lineup right now on FanDuel, who would you consider the highest priority plays overall that we could talk about right here?
Yeah, so
highest priority plays for FanDuel cash.
Yeah, Desmond Bane would be at the very, very top of the pecking order here. 6,700, even if you get John Morant in. I like what we're seeing as far as minutes go. Again, I'm a little bit surprised that he's on this back-to-back. They are big favorites. Desmond Bane, was just awesome. He was awesome before he got hurt, was out for just over a month. Like everything there. Trey Jones, a little bit of a difference. I guess he's pretty good over on DK as well, but I had a ton of him. He was a piece at 6,200 that just is showing up a lot. No Devin Vassell is going to be a big thing for him going forward. I think he'll just get all the run that he can get in these, in competitive spots. Not that this is necessarily going to be one. Dennis Schroeder, Russell Westbrook, the Lakers that you would totally expect to be there are guys that I'm getting to a lot. And then I am going to get to some Josh Richardson. I am surprised to see him not really pulling more ownership in our last update, 5,300 going for him. We got that update all of a minute ago here. And if he's not going to pull any ownership, I am very, very interested in getting to him. We have a little bit higher optimal percentage going his direction. Oh, now he's about equally owned in that last update here. A little bit of slight leverage going his direction, but that's a guy at 5,300 that is another Spur that's kind of making his way into my lineups at his current ownership.
Yeah, and I think also just looking at some of the players who look a little bit different on FanDuel as compared to DraftKings. So, I mean, I already really like Dennis Schroeder a lot on DraftKings, and I would play him in a cash game on DraftKings. FanDuel, though, considering what his ownership is, I think he's also kind of like a must-play type guy in FanDuel cash, where he's going to be a lot more popular than he is on DraftKings. So somebody else that I think we should be getting behind. But other than that, I agree with everything you said. Let's see, what else do we have in terms of Super Chats Power Books? But there's no question here. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here
we haven't had any questions all show, so that's not really shocking.
Well, no. We've had a lot of questions. You've just refused to answer them.
Yeah.
You are not in a good mood today. Not answering anybody's questions.
Oh, it's just me again. Cringequist, pack in action.
Power Books wants to know Westbrook and Trey Jones or Fox and Fultz on FanDuel, Westbrook and Trey Jones.
I mean, the first one by a landslide for me.
Totally agree. The next super chat is from a man named Nico Pico. And
Oh my God.
Nico Pico wants to know. Well, let's see if there's a question here. I was going to say he wants to know, but I was assuming there's a question. Like, we've driven Eric to start drinking.
Sparkling water.
Oh my God, he's going to be fucked up by the end of this one.
Doing
Nico
dry January.
Pico. Shout out to Chard Razman Porzinghi. In the world where we blaze for days, fools, be thinking the CIA owns the gameplay. I was in the cellar saying prayers. All right, you going to answer this question, Eric?
Looking at my lineups more like layups. Can't really help it. I'm kind of like Leia coming back to save the empire from the people who are dire. I can't really stop the flow. When I go, I just go, and
Yeah, that was wonderful. I think that was really, really well done, Eric. I know he doesn't have to know that though. The next super chat that we have here is from the next super chat is from another man named Nico Pico. He's saying Eric is the natty king. He out here living the dream. Razman won. He's up here. He's the greatest man in the grass. He's up first. Greg the homie. He's got baloney. Does he have? Do we have to unmute him? Yeah,
I have
Eric,
to
you've been
unmute
muted for a
myself.
while
You're an
now.
absolute whatever.
Did you
That
not
was
understand?
Eric's
did you
best
not-
bars ever wild. Yeah, no, it came up on the top of my head.
Yeah. Did you not hear the question?
Take that,
Is
and I
why you
take your
didn't answer
lady
it?
to bed. I can't really stop what I'm doing. Keep on through Klein to more like incline, not decline. I can't really stop this fine rhyme. He's walking away.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I feel bad for Nico Pico that you just won't answer his questions. Like, I don't understand what you're doing. He's asking you questions.
first
He's paying
one.
money for them.
The
and
first
you just
one.
won't answer him.
The first one.
Yeah, I disagree. James McGruder, who are the top plays at each position for a DK single entry? Okay, here we go. This is a DFS question. So going over the players who I have the most exposure to, and I assume this is not going to change, by the way, by the time we get to lock. If we end up finding John Moran is going to be rolled out, then yeah, they'll introduce other pieces, but I'm not anticipating we're going to get news in the next 20 minutes. It's going to change anything. So these are my most roster players, position by position at DraftKings. So point guard, Russell Westbrook. Same for you.
So I can't get in my lineups anymore on FanDuel. So that's a problem. It's kind of
But
difficult.
you get to answer the DraftKings question at least.
No, I can't because I can't look where my lineups are. I'm trying to get into Cruncher and I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, all right.
I just
so
refreshed.
I've got this handled. Here are my most
I
roster
can
players.
guarantee you it has Russell Westbrook and Dennis Schroeder there at the point guard position. CJ McCollum, even at 8,700. Why are people not? I mean, I just want to play CJ McCollum at 8,700. Usage goes up to over 30% in that direction as well. Feel like he's going way overlooked here on this slate too.
So I am going to. I've got lineups in front of me, so I'll give the answers here. Point guard for me, my most exposed is Russell Westbrook. Shooting guard is currently Josh Richardson. Small forward is Najee Marshall at the moment. Power forward would also be Najee Marshall. So I'll throw in one other guy there. Zach LaVine, I think, is another small forward option that's going a little bit overlooked at the moment. And by the way, Zach LaVine, his usage in recent games has just been ridiculous. Part of it is because he's been making a lot of shots, which has encouraged him to take more. 37% usage rate last game, 28% the game before. The three-point shooting is clearly not sustainable. The last two games, do you know what he's combined to go from three the last couple of games, Eric?
Yeah, because I literally talked about it extensively last night on Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks on the Odd Chopper channel. I bet he went 17 for 25 if I had to guess.
You'd be correct. That is an outstanding guess. But yeah, last two games, 50 and 62 fantasy points for Zach LaVine. The shooting is, once again, absolutely not sustainable. But I tend to think he's just going to keep taking a lot of shots because of what his usage has been. And also the playing time, 35, 38, 36, 40, 36, 38, 43 minutes over his last 7 games. Absurd playing time. So somebody else there that I think we should be considering in Zach LaVine. At center, Nikola Jokic. He just makes sense to be in a lot of lineups, correlates with the Lakers plays that we like.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said is legitimately like everything I said last night. So we are starting to mind meld a little bit. It freaks me out sometimes.
Wade W is a Magic fan. He wants to know Paulo Banchero, Anthony Edwards, or Cade Cunningham for the rest of their careers. You have to pick
Mr.
one.
Cunningham, for the rest of their careers. Oh man,
I'm going Banchero.
I think I would want Banchero too. He's just got the body. Like Edwards and Cade, I think they both kind of do the same thing to a certain extent. I mean, Edwards just a better scorer, Cade a little bit better distributor between them, but Paulo is just the whole package. Like I would definitely go Paulo for their entire career.
The next question we have is from Riley Teixeira. He said, could you guys show the ownership for FanDuel or give the most owned plays? Kind of tough to do at the moment. I do have a previous ownership run in front of me that I could give out for the most rostered players on FanDuel. So at least in the last run that I have in front of me, this is what it was. We had Trey Jones, 45% owned, Desmond Bane, 44%, Wendy Gabriel, 44%, Russell Westbrook, 34%, Michael Porter Jr., 30%, Kyle Kuzma, 29%, Dennis Schroeder, 27%, Jalen Brunson, 27%, Jaren Jackson Jr., 25%, Nikola Jokic, 25%, maybe DeMar DeRozan at 24%, Kendrick Nunn at 23%. So I hope that helps you out a little bit, Riley. But that was some of the most recent ownership run that we had done. Were you able to cancel your lineups at all? Are you doing it by hand?
Yeah, I was able to get an email in and do all the things I needed to. I literally just copy pasted an old email, was able to then click out of some other stuff here too. And if in the next however many minutes we're able to get some stuff back online, I will be a lot happier. We'll be able to have it ready to rock.
Race fan 22, I am paying you to stop.
Okay. Done.
All right. So could I just retire off the $2 super chat now? Is that how this works? Am I retired?
Yep. Done.
I know what he means though.
I do too.
Nico, I love you. Please no more super chats. We don't need any more. No, let's save them for next time. All right. The next super chat, I think we've answered all of them now. I'll check Discord to see if we got any questions that came through.
If you guys are playing FanDuel like me today, I was able to get out of everything. I would just get out of everything, and then if things get back online in like the next 5 minutes or so, the $15 isn't filled. The $9 is now filled. The 25-cent, I'm just looking at different stuff. Like the $15 specifically, there's 120 entries away from that filling. 1,200 entries from filling. So I think you should be able to get completely back into that if you want. So I'm just getting some money out of there, and then I'll just put it back if we get everything online.
All right. And some questions that we got in Discord that I'm going to hit on right now. But first, we are sponsored by No House Advantage today. And if you guys have not signed up at NHA, they have a new deposit bonus for the start of the new year, because you are now going to get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit when you sign up at No House Advantage. Not only are you going to get some nice spending money on that first deposit, in addition to that, you're going to get access to a ton of overlay. Eric was just talking about how some of the contests on FanDuel not totally filled. You know what definitely don't totally fill? The contests at No House Advantage pretty regularly, only halfway filled, sometimes not even that much. And you could get access to all that overlay just by signing up by clicking on our link, which is also going to get you, like I said, up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. But then also, if you're in a state that doesn't have legal sports betting, there's a good chance you could still bet on player props over at No House Advantage and play their props against the house. So go check out NHA and sign up by clicking on the link that we have below. All right. Some questions in Discord. First from Four Prong Dinger. He's asking Gafford or Williams. And I assume that means Grant Williams.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with Grant Williams.
Gafford's a tough one too.
So you're talking about Robert Williams? Robert Williams, right? Maybe Robert. That makes more sense.
Well, Grant Williams is also
price.
really popular today.
Yeah. Gafford and Robert Williams are like neighbors, though, in pricing, right?
He also didn't tell us a site. Let's see.
So Gafford's 4,700 and Robert Williams is 4,400 on DK.
And Grant Williams is 3,500 on
that's
DK.
That's why I'm thinking it's Robert.
Okay.
And I would like Robert Williams more between the two for what it's worth. I know Gafford started to play. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been really hard to nail down the minutes of Gafford. He didn't start the second half of last game, which is definitely something that's concerning. Just the fact that, hey, he started the first half, might not start the second half. So as a result, we only got 25 minutes out of Gafford last game. I'm going to lean towards Robert Williams. Neither one of them are priority plays, but slightly lean towards Time Lord.
Yep.
We've got some other questions here. This one from Sploosh. Do you have any rules excluding playing Thomas Bryant and Wenyen Gabriel together?
No. I mean, the thing is, Wenyen Gabriel, he's cheap enough on both sites where I think you can do it. Now, if I weren't crunching lineups and if we didn't have a bunch of stuff here, I could see a reason why you wouldn't. I doubt if I were hand building, I would land on a lot of the two together because one is kind of exclusive of the other to a certain extent, but I wouldn't go out of my way to make it a priority. I'm so low on Gabriel that I'm probably not going to be getting to much of him anyways.
All right. We have some more super chats now to answer. This one is from Thaddeus Brown. Hey, I gave you that name, Cringequist. Glad you like it.
I don't.
He came. Is he truly the originator?
No, there's no way. You're a damn dirty liar.
All right. He says he was the first. My filler arc, is Julius Randle worth the shot today? Or will the Greek freak foul him out? Also, should I jump to Paulo Banchero? So the issue I have with Julius Randle is that he's really expensive now. And if I'm paying up, I would just rather play Jokic or I'd rather play Giannis at this point because he's not that far removed from those guys' salaries. And I get that we've seen incredible production from Randle ever since the injury to RJ Barrett. But still, look at the price point. He's 10,400. Jason Tatum is 10,700. John Moran is 10,300. Sabonis 10,500. Giannis 12,000. Jokic 11,700. It's hard for me to get up to Randle with any kind of regularity when the opportunity cost is not being able to play some of those other stars.
Correct. And, New York has just been bipolar. They win a lot. They lose a lot. They win a lot. It's just been 3 pretty pronounced streaks now in the last however long. I do have Milwaukee here. I like Milwaukee. I've got Milwaukee tickets, and I feel pretty good about that one. Looking at the Knicks, this has been pretty ridiculous. Weird how they got better with RJ Barrett out here the last couple. Also, opposition has helped a little bit, but I don't completely hate the idea of Julius Randle. I mean, you go through some of the numbers that we've looked at with no RJ Barrett off the floor here of late, and Julius Randle's been insane, but you have to compare him now at 10-4 to all these other studs. Jason Tatum for 300 more, Giannis for 1,600 more. You got Brown there for 900 less. Even at his own position, it's difficult for me to land on him. I get it if you land on a couple shares, but he's pulling ownership too. So like for me, I would much rather just go to at other positions, get to the Jokic, get to some Giannis, be all right with that direction as opposed to Randle.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. Next super chat. Oh, also, should I jump to Banchero? We got that question before about Banchero's future prospects, and overall, I do really like him. But here's one issue that I have with Banchero for now. The Magic are healthy, and I just don't know what it means for the rotations going forward. They have so many guys to go to. Jalen Suggs is going to start to play extended minutes sometime in the near future. It's just really hard to project their minutes. This is a team that right now is not competitive against the best teams in the NBA, on a daily basis, but they are so deep. They're one of the deepest teams in the NBA. And I don't know what that means for some of their minutes going forward. So at least for today, I'm not really playing Banchero, but do you see it differently?
Nope. Also Bol Bol's back. So that's like another guy who could just really cause an issue with this rotation. We have him listed as out here. It said he's out for Mondays. He's expected to rejoin. Okay. I just was double checking what I saw with it because I had him projected with a 0 next to it still. Wanted to double check what I saw in that news blurb because Orlando's a team I just really haven't thought about a lot today. It's probably a decent enough spot, but if I played anybody from Orlando, I'm just going to keep playing Markelle Fultz. He's 6,100 over on DK today. That makes a lot of sense. We're starting to see what that ceiling is. We also have at OddsShopper, one of our best bets that exists there. And then in the NBA Bet Pro, we're looking at over 1.5 blocks plus steals for him. The guy is just getting active on the defensive end. He's just a fun basketball player to watch. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for him to have an opportunity. He's up to 7,500 over on FanDuel. Don't think you need to try to make that a thing considering Cole Anthony still exists, but on DK, definitely in my player pool.
Got a super chat here from Pious Devil. Has Avdia lost his minutes in the rotation? So yes and no, right? Because it's not like he's out of the rotation entirely, but he has not been playing nearly as much as of late. A couple of things have happened. Number one, a lot of one-sided games the Wizards have been in like in weird ways too. They've won games via blowout, they've lost via blowout, and ones that you would not expect. So for instance, last game, they lose to OKC by 17 points. 2 games before that, they beat the Milwaukee Bucks by 23 points. So that's definitely been something that's kind of jerked around these players' minutes. The last time we saw them play in a game that was decided by single digits was December 27th. So it's hard to say just because so many of the games have been lopsided. But with that said, I don't think Avdia is going to go back to being the guy who was playing 38 minutes at one point a month ago.
Nope, I'm with you. It's a spot where if you landed on a couple shares, I'm okay with it. He's 4,200. I do think he's going to get upper 20s minutes in competitive games. So I'm not trying to read into too much to just the one game that we just recently saw. One game does not a trend make. So let's pump the brakes there. I think he's probably okay at 4,200. Definitely somebody that isn't a priority by any means, but you get to a couple shares, so be it.
The next super chat that we have is from James McGruder. He wants to know who are the top 3 players under 3,900 for a DraftKings single entry. Right, 3,900.
I mean, you got to put Kendrick Nunn into the conversation for what that ceiling could be. I know he's way below it, so there you go. I'm not going to put Wenyen Gabriel in, even though he's the one pulling a lot of ownership. Let's see. Those would be 2 off the top of my head that are down there. This Grant Williams ownership is out of control. This is wild.
3,900. If we're one other guy I'd add to the mix is, and I hate him, but Romeo Langford, just because he is cheap and he has potential for minutes. I mean, there aren't that many guys that I love 3,900 and below. It's a really cheap price point.
Yeah, Romeo Langford, not a bad shout out. I mean, I had talked about him the other day. He ended up putting up 12 for me against the Knicks, and then. Let's see, what did he do? Yeah, he played really well. He ended up getting the 29-31 minutes the last 2. So that was a little frustrating.
He
was 3,100 those slates, and I needed somebody that was cheap. He's 3,700. I don't think we have to do it today.
Yeah, neither do I. It's just there aren't that many guys I love playing sub 4K. I guess the answer just kind of becomes Wenyen Gabriel because there is potential for him to play extended minutes. But I don't think you need to play 3 guys sub $3,900 in single entry.
Agreed.
The next question that we have is from Doomer707, TCU wagon for Matt Gajewski. Is Matt Gajewski a TCU fan?
No. So, I mean, he just calls him the wagon because it's just like an unbeatable force. It's like a betting term that he's got where just basically a team that can't lose. You just keep betting on them every single week and they just keep making you money. I think it's just like
it's like momentum.
Momentum. Yeah.
There
that's the word I'm going for. So, yeah, TCU's been a wagon for the people who have been there. I have been on the other side of that one. It has not been pretty.
And I don't bet college sports.
Yeah,
so, by the way, also, I should mention, as a lot of people know, college football championship game tonight. Eric and I are going to be ending this show in 5 minutes. And then we kick it over to the college football guys, Ben Ross and Matt Gajewski. You're going to be doing college football live before lock. So stick around and check that out as well. Corey Jefferson, Brunson, Holiday, Murray, last man in on FanDuel. Let's see. Those players were Brunson, Holiday, and Murray. Who do I have projected the best on FanDuel amongst those guys? Brunson, Holiday, Murray. That is Brunson for me.
Yeah,
Brunson. So Brunson's gotten to be fairly expensive now, but it is a smaller slate, and just amongst those guys, I think he's the best option. Clearly not the same as when he was $1,000 cheaper or anything like that, but still somebody who's benefiting from the absence of RJ Barrett. And we know that Tibbs has no issue playing him big minutes in competitive games.
This is true. Maybe this is just the Ryan, the days that we spent, Rinpack and myself, on the Slate Starter podcast, but he would always point out Drew Holiday defense, and you watch it. There aren't many guys when in the era of the pick and roll, because you're able to get certain defenders. You can kind of isolate a matchup with whomever you want in the NBA. That's why certain guys can't make the rotations come playoff time. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but like Drew Holiday is one of those defenders that I look at. It's like, I don't feel like towing with a popular Jalen Brunson ever. He's not as popular though, because a lot of that ownership is now being absorbed by Russell Westbrook that would have otherwise gone to Brunson earlier. So I have no problem with it at this point in time, but even at 8K, he is over on FanDuel, 8,100 on DK. I'm not prioritizing him by any means. I do have a couple shares.
Big Dream $. Harrison Barnes is a pivot versus Michael Porter Jr. Do you like the juice? I do. I've been playing Harrison Barnes a good amount lately. He's playing a ton, 37 minutes in 3 consecutive games. He's somebody I think has been underrepresented on a bunch of slates as of late. So I don't mind him as a low end play at all. I've been
5,600 on FanDuel. I'm still getting to him. So makes sense.
The Claw 28. Best shooting guard for 5,300 and under, and then best utility for 7,300. All right. So first shooting guard, 5,300 and under. For me, that is, it's tough. The answer for me in that price range is Cole Anthony, but I'm also not playing Cole Anthony.
I mean, it would be Malcolm Brogdon for me.
Oh, no, we said 5,300 and under. Okay. So Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
There we go. Easy enough. Yep. I was thinking under 5,300. My bad. Brogdon is the answer there. And then utility 7,300 and under. So could be somebody at 73 or under. The player actually I've projected the best there is Thomas Bryant, but that's also a lot of salary.
With 3 minutes to go, can we recap what we're going to do with Memphis here if John Moran is out?
Oh, yeah. I just want to make sure we have a bunch of questions.
Totally. We can keep going. But I just wanted to double check, because Dylan Brooks is 5,700 on FanDuel. I want none of him or I want all of him. There's really no in between.
Yeah, so it's funny because I just did the player I've projected best for under 7,300 is Thomas Bryant, but that would pretty clearly be Desmond Bane if there was to be no John Morant today. But if you're looking for somebody who's closer to the salary, if you already have those guys in your lineup, then I would say Jamal Murray. But Thomas Bryant and Desmond Bane are the two that actually have projected the best in that 7,300 or under salary range.
Yep, love it.
The next question is from James Magruder. Last man in for utility, $4,700, DraftKings single entry. For $4,700, that is Gafford for me.
Gafford as well. No, I have right underneath him, Robert Williams. I've got more of.
It's funny. I get some more exposure to Robert Williams because he's cheaper, but I have Gafford projected higher.
Okay, that's fair.
So,
I have Williams for a little bit more. Wild.
Yeah, it's always hard because I know somebody before asked us in chat too, Gafford versus Williams. I think it's very, very close. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. But if just in general, if price is not considered, then it's slightly in towards Gafford. The next question that we have is from, actually, I might have hit on all the super chats. Yeah, let me just make sure, George. We got a bunch of them today. I appreciate all you guys sending all the super chats. And Discord, do we have any questions in there to answer? We got to all of those. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for sticking with us. If you didn't do it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Nico Pico. Stick around for the live before lock for college football coming up right after this.